Alright, hey again people. This is going to be a tutorial on Commander Invisible and Occlusion geometry. So first up I'd like to show you the incredibly basic setup I've got. We have two rooms and a hallway that is already hidden. I'll re-hide that. And first thing, you want to make sure that everything that you build is layered properly. Now I thought before I do this in setup of the video, I'd show you how to quickly do that. So what I do is generally I'll have a room with all the geo and props and such inside of it. That's got a double prop. Let's get rid of that. I'll select everything and then I'll throw it into the props layer, even though not everything is a prop, because then you can deselect the props and remove it from the layer and then put it into the geo layer. Simple and easy. It's definitely useful to do that. It's a little bit of a time saver for you for in future. Yeah, just select everything, put in the props layer, disable props, remove from props layer, add to geo layer. And now everything should be hideable and such. Now for Commander Invisible, what I do is I'll make it so that I've only got one room of visible. I'll select everything, open my multiple viewports, and go from the side and front view. I will drag a line across the upper half of the room. This is only something I would recommend doing in Greybox or advanced Greybox stages. Later on you're going to need to do more refined Commander Invisible. But you've selected everything on the top half. Now if I zoom in on the perspective, you'll notice the pillars that will obstruct the commander's build placement are also selected if you do this. So you've got two choices here. You can either cut holes in the floor to make it so that the blackness underneath shows to the commander, and that will make it obvious to the commander that there's a pillar there. A lot of people prefer this method because it prevents you blocking med packs and ammo and cat packs and such by having a pillar in the way. Or you can do the easier method, which is to deselect everything that's on the floor. And rather than doing that one by one, just like you did selecting at the top, hold control and drag from the bottom. And now you've still got everything selected from the top of the room, even the tops of doorways and such, but the pillars are no longer selected. If I'd have made this room more accurately, I'd have trims all the way around, so these walls would be halved or quartered, and I'd still have the majority of the walls selected as well. So I then add that to a layer. I'll call that invis for now, and then I would move on to the next room and repeat. You need to disable the invis layer so that it doesn't show up. Zoom into that by pressing Z on the view boxes, and same again, just select, hold control, deselect the bottom half, add to the invis layer. Once that's done, you can add a Commander Invisible group. So Commander Invisible. Case sensitivity is a thing, so make sure you spell it exactly like that. As long as I haven't made spelling mistakes, that is. And then you can just select everything inside of that layer by activating. Make sure your selection tools down here have everything that's in your map that is available that you want to be potentially added to the invis, and then hit the select all from that layer and then just add to the group. Now everything in that group is selectable by clicking on the group, and that's your invis done. It's done. That's it. That's all you need to do. It's that simple. There's nothing hugely difficult about it in any way, shape or form. If you do this on a Greybox map, 99% of people will be happy with the job that you've done. Now moving on to Occlusion geometry, I'm going to add another layer called Occlusion. And Occlusion Geo, for those who don't know what it does, it basically prevents you from seeing everything in another room or behind a layer of geometry. So this is obviously geometry here, and what you're going to do is you're going to build custom geometry to wrap these rooms up, and you want to wrap it around as close as you possibly can, because a single pixel of anything not being hidden by that occlusion geo will mean that the whole thing is shown. So, for instance, if with this prop, if this wall was occlusion geometry, that would be hidden. That wouldn't, and it would render the whole prop. So all you need to do is essentially start by building a box around your geometry. The way I do it in Greybox is to go with 4 units larger than the room itself in all directions. And then extrude. To the whole room. Now, because these rooms are exactly the same room, I'm just going to quickly duplicate that and then just drag it across, because that will save me time building it. But if this was an actual map that I was building, then I wouldn't do that. Now, as you can see, I've got 2 layers of the same textured geometry. Now, that can be quite difficult to see. A lot of people change the texture. I personally changed the texture to a blue texture. I've seen people change it to pink or to lava and all sorts. Changing it to lava is very useful for when you're in game, if you realise you haven't layered the occlusion properly, or sorry, added it to the group properly. The lava will show through on pretty much anything, and people will notice it, especially from commander view or from spectator. But if you use like a pink texture or a blue texture, it stands out, but some people will just assume that there's a map issue there. They won't think that there's more often than not, people will assume that it's a commander invisible problem than an occlusion problem. So if you make it lava, it stands out a lot more, and people are more inclined to say, well, what the hell's going on? There's no lava on this map. Obviously, that doesn't count if you've actually got lava on your map. But I'm just going to change this geometry to be blue to make it more visible. And then continue building this around the rest of the hallway. This is by no means interesting. It is one of the most boring parts of being a mapper. I would go so far as to say that most mappers hate doing it, but we have no option. Unfortunately, automated occlusion systems have been tried to be built, and it's just not as easy as it sounds, unfortunately. So we are stuck building this on our own. But you can see that I'm literally just wrapping this this hallway and the rooms relatively closely. You'll also notice that I click my UI and don't use shortcuts. The reason for that is because I don't know the shortcuts, and I've never known the shortcuts, and it's never been a problem for me. It's never been something that I've desperately needed to know, so I've never bothered to learn it. This does the job quick enough. But if you are so inclined, feel free to learn the shortcuts. I'm sure it will speed things up a little bit. And honestly, with how slow this is and how long it takes, I don't blame people for learning the shortcuts. Okay, so now the occlusion geo is set up. I just need to delete that. Now, if you had a fully detailed map and you were like desperately struggling for performance, there'd be like small textures and trims and potentially props on the floor here. If you had a wall or props even like this here, you can throw down like a box around them and make that occlusion geometry as well, and it'll mean that if a person stood here, anything behind that occlusion geometry isn't going to load, as long as I showed you earlier, a pixel isn't showing. The second they come up here, like at a height, and can see these boxes behind them, those boxes will load. But if they're down here, right up against it, they're not going to. So that can save you performance in the long run, so it's worth noting. But now all I'm going to do is I'm going to weld these occlusion geos together. That isn't required, I just find that it's useful to do if you can. I add them to the occlusion layer so they can easily be hidden and brought back. And then I will add them to the occlusion geometry. Why is that doing that? That's weird. Let's remove those. There we go. The occlusion geo isn't selecting anything anymore. Don't know why it was doing that. I must have accidentally done that earlier. Common invis is still working. There's a duplicate box there again. Just so you guys are aware, the reason I can see that is because this box is brighter than the rest, which means that it's selecting multiple objects. So when I delete that, there's only one box left, and now it won't be as bright as the rest. It'll be as bright as the rest. Okay, so we'll select the occlusion layer, add to the occlusion geo group, and then when you build your map, that occlusion will be functional and should work fine. And it's as simple as that. That is occlusion and Commander Invisible. If you want any other videos like this, as always, comment or message me on Discord, and all the usual YouTube jargon, subscribe, like and so on. Thanks for watching.